roof.
What's happening around the world?
And what's happening here at home. Good evening and welcome to Primetime News here on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Peruni Karunaratna.
And I'm Sandru Ferdinando. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
Supreme Court declares presidential pardon for Duminda Silva as unlawful. Vegetable prices soar. Agriculture Minister urges people to take up gardening. Government nurses go on strike. Tear gas and water cannons against the IUSF protest. Iran strikes militant bases in Pakistan in the latest Middle East flashpoint.
First up in news here at home, Sri Lanka's Supreme Court ruled that the presidential pardon granted by former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to Duminda Silva, an ex-member of parliament convicted of murder, was unlawful. The court ordered the immediate revocation of the pardon. The order came following the consideration of the fundamental rights applications filed by Hirunika Premachandra, her mother, and Ghazali Hussain, Provincial Council, challenging the presidential pardon.
A three-judge bench comprising Justices P. Padman Surasena, Gamini Amarasekara and Arjuna Ubesekara called up the fundamental rights applications filed challenging the presidential pardon. In a unanimous decision, court determined that then-President Gotabaya Rajapaksa had disregarded proper procedure while granting the pardon, undermining its legal validity. The Supreme Court ruled that therefore the fundamental rights of the petitioners were violated. The court directed the Commissioner General of Prisons to take necessary steps immediately regarding Duminda Silva. On September 8, 2016, the Attorney General filed a case before the Colombo High Court against 13 people, including then-Member of Parliament Duminda Silva, for their alleged involvement in the murder of Bharata Lakshman Premachandra, who was shot dead in Colombo. A three-member bench of the High Court found 5 defendants, including former Member of Parliament Duminda Silva, guilty of the 2011 murder of Bharata Lakshman Premachandra. The court sentenced all 5 individuals to death. The Supreme Court upheld the death sentence of Duminda Silva and 2 others on the 11th of October 2018, dismissing their appeals against the Colombo High Court's decision. However, following his election victory in 2019, Gotabaya Rajapaksa unexpectedly granted a pardon solely to Silva. Citing potential fundamental rights violations, petitions were filed on the 31st of May, challenging the validity of Duminda Silva's presidential pardon. The Supreme Court responded with an interim order suspending the pardon. Following the Supreme Court's interim order suspending his pardon, Duminda Silva was re-imprisoned. The Supreme Court today delivered its final verdict on the petitions challenging the pardon's legality. President's Counsel M.A. Sumandiran, Jeff Alagaratnam, K. Kanageshwaran and attorneys Eraj de Silva, Surend Fernando, among legal counsels, appeared for the petitioners. President's Counsel Anuja Premaratna, Gamini Marapana, Naveen Marapana and Manohara de Silva appeared for Duminda Silva.
Janadipati Gotabaya Rajapaksa, Duminda Silva.
The Sri Lankan Supreme Court declared the pardon granted to Duminda Silva by former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa illegal. I appeared as counsel for Hirunika Premachandra in this case. For the first time ever, Sri Lanka's highest court has struck down a presidential pardon.
The
family of the late Bharata Lakshman Premachandra addressed the media later in the day.
මේ දීපු නඩු තීන්දුව
මං හිතනවා ලංකාවේ ඉතිහාසගත වෙන නඩු තීන්දුවක්.
This is a historic ruling. This is the first time that a presidential pardon was challenged and the aggrieved party emerged victorious. The ruling sends a message to all citizens in this country. That is, no matter how much you wield money, media and political muscle, the truth will emerge victorious one day. After everything that had to happen happened, all we had was our will. We carried forward this struggle with our determination. I would like to tell the people of this country that this is not a personal win for us, but a win for the entire country. This shows that Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who had the power to grant a presidential pardon under Article 34, failed to properly execute those powers. I want to thank everyone who supported me. This ends here. It's been 13 years and now I'm 36. I was only 23 when my father was taken away from me. Since the age of 23, I had to face off with the underworld and drug barons. This was in the midst of threats to my life and the worst insults one could endure. During that period, as a family, we suffered and it ends now. I do not hate anyone. I did not challenge the presidential order and file a case solely because of a personal need, but because it should set a precedent to the people. From today on, no president should be allowed to reach decisions as they please.
මොකද මෙතනින් එහාට කිසිම ජනාධිපති කෙනෙක්ට ඕනවට එපාවට හිතන විදියට තීන්දුව ගන්න බෑ.
Even though the system is corrupt, politicians are corrupt, at least the justice system is not corrupt. That can be seen today. And like I said, I just want to urge everyone to never give up. Justice should always prevail. Just because you have power and the people who abuse power shouldn't be the people who are seen as winners at the end of the day.
It's been 13 years and for around 5 years my daughter and I went to courts along with those who supported us. 13 years later, we were served justice for the second time. I respect the courts for this ruling.
දෙවෙනි මතාවටත් අපිට මේකේ සාධාරණත්වය ඉෂ්ට වුණා. ඒ ගැන අධිකරණයට හිසනම ආචාර කරනවා.
Consumers in Sri Lanka are feeling the pinch as prices of vegetables keep climbing relentlessly each passing day. Now today, in the bustling Manning market, the wholesale price of a kilogram of carrots reached a staggering 2,000 rupees.
ජනතාව ගොඩාක් පව්. ඇත්තටම ගොඩාක් ජනතාව පව්. ඊයේ එක අම්මා කෙනෙක් ආව කැරට් ගන්න මගේ කඩේට මම පොළොන්නරුවේ අරලංගල කඩේ කරන්නේ. ඇවිල්ලා කියන පුතේ මේ දුවගේ මොන්ඩිසෝරි දුවට බබාට මේ කැරට් අල දෙකක් ගත්තේ කිව්වා. කැරට් අල දෙක දාලා ගත්තාම අපි රුපියල් මේ 2400 අරන් ගිහලා 2500 බිල් කරලා බලපුවම එක චූටි කැරට් අලේ රුපියල් 350 400ක් වෙනවා. එතකොට අර අම්මගේ ඇද්දේ කඳුළු පිරුණා මොකද හේතුව මේ කැරට් අලේ අයාගේ දරුවට දෙන්න ඕන මේ ඒත් මම එළවලු මල් රුපියල් 900 ගත්ත අම්මට කැරට් අලේ මගේ ගන්න දුන්න අම්මගෙන් රයිස් එක හදලා දෙන්න කියලා. දැන්ටම වැඩ පිළිවෙලක් ගේන්න. දැන් ඇති හොඳටම ඇති. රජයක් නැති රටක් හැටියට දැන් ජනතාව නිකන් විසිවි අතේ ගිහින් තියෙනවා.
This is how a retail trader who was at the Dambulla Economic Centre to purchase goods put into clear context the insufferable state of the current Sri Lankan consumer. The stock of vegetables available at the Dambulla Economic Centre was visibly lower today. So too were the number of traders from other parts of the island.
The price of vegetables has increased by 100 to 200 rupees compared to what they were a few days ago. Carrot was 2,000 rupees yesterday and today it's 2,200 rupees. Leeks cost around 400 to 450. Now it's 500 to 550. Everything has increased by around 100 to 200 rupees. If the Dambulla Economic Centre received a total of 100,000 kilos worth of vegetables previously, that volume has dropped to around 25,000 kilos.
The Nuwara Eliya Dedicated Economic Centre is another focal point in Sri Lanka's vegetable supply chain. These were the wholesale prices of certain vegetables at the Nuwara Eliya Dedicated Economic Centre today. Carrot 1,800 rupees, cabbage 680 rupees, capsicum 650 rupees.
Everything has risen in price. We cannot sell our stocks. Traders are left with no option but to close down their shops.
The Kapatipura Economic Centre also reported a drastic reduction in the volume of vegetables received today.
I used to carry my stock on a lorry, more than 3 times what I purchased today. We cannot sell what we buy either.
How had price changes affected vegetables that made their way to Colombo from areas including Nuwara Eliya, Kapatipura and Dambulla? This was how prices were marked at the Manning market in Paliagoda. Carrot 2,000 rupees, green beans 1,000 rupees, capsicum 1,000 rupees,
කට්ටිය එන්නේ බඩු ගන්න බඩු එළවලු මිල වැඩි හින්දා.
නිෂ්පාදනය අඩුයි කියන්නේ ඉතින් මේවට ඉතින් රජයේ මැති ඇමති කොල්ලෝ වක් කියන්න ඕන කුසිකර්ම ඇමතිතුමාලා ඇවිල්ලා මේවා බරන්න ඕනේ මේවා විසඳුම් ගන්න ඕනේ.
මේ දෙසැම්බර් මාස වෙනකොට
It is natural for the price of vegetables to increase during the holiday period, but such a drastic rise over several months has never happened in our history.
සිදු වෙලා නැහැ.
Consumers cannot bear the cost of vegetables because they keep surging every day. We won't be able to consume vegetables at this rate. It is more profitable to purchase food instead of cooking.
Here's Dr. Harshri De Silva's explanation on the matter.
There are three sides to this issue. For months, relentless rains have crippled Sri Lankan farmers' productivity. Government policies have added to their woes with fertilizer shortages, input price hikes and unclear application guidelines, creating a maze of challenges. The third side to this is that the market operates in a very inefficient manner. At present, there is no supply to meet demand. At the double market, an opaque system leaves farmers vulnerable to exploitation. Imagine a farmer bringing a basket of green chilies. They are whisked away by middlemen. Their produce loaded onto trucks without transparency or fair pricing. This system within the market steals their hard-earned profits. In contrast, the Prabhashwara project, a state-of-the-art humidity-controlled storage facility, could offer a lifeline. It is separated into 6 sections. It was designed to store various crops including chili, red onions and potatoes. Construction of this could have been completed by March 2020. However, the Gotabaya Rajapaksa clan, including those in the Vietmaga, opposed this and stopped it.
ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂගේ කට්ටිය ඇවිල්ලා ඔය වියත්නාගේ කට්ටිය තමයි ඉස්සල්ලා මේකට විරුද්ධ වුණේ. ඒගොල්ලෝ මේක නැවැත්තුවා ඡන්දෙන් පස්සේ.
What are the sentiments of farmers regarding this?
carrot 200,000 rupees
spent to cultivate a quarter acre of carrots. We usually reap a harvest of 2,500 kilos. Cost of production alone was 120 rupees. At that rate, we were able to fetch around 150 rupees and barely make ends meet. At present, we are only able to reap a harvest of 250 to 300 kilos from the same acreage. Incessant rains over the past few months have caused production to dip rapidly. I used to grow snake gourd, green beans and other vegetables. We cannot even recover the cost of those seeds. Farmers are in this trade because they have no choice. We only consume one meal. It's either breakfast or lunch.
Sri Lankans grappling with a burgeoning crisis of vegetable prices spiraling upwards are facing an additional layer of hardship. This comes as the Government Nursing Officers Association's ongoing strikes disrupt patient treatment, adding to the growing anxieties.
The Sri Lankan healthcare system is facing a major disruption as health trade unions launched a nationwide strike protesting inadequate pay increases. The move stems from a recent decision to increase doctors' allowances by 35,000 rupees. The Delhi clinic at the Anuradhapura Teaching Hospital was affected due to the token strike launched by the Government Nursing Officers Association. Newsfirst correspondent said that although services at the Mathura General Hospital were disrupted to a certain extent, a majority of services continued as usual. Treatment services at the Karapita Teaching Hospital were carried out today. Sri Lanka Army personnel were deployed at the Colombo National Hospital this morning. However, they withdrew from services after nursing officers reported to duty.
As decided, the Government Nursing Officers Association launched the trade union action at 7 this morning. The strike will continue until 7 a.m. tomorrow. The trade union action will not be launched at 10 selected hospitals. We held talks with the Health Minister and State Minister of Finance yesterday. We did not receive a favourable response.
The All Ceylon Nurses Union said it will not support the strike today.
We have received an opportunity to meet with the Health Secretary today and we will attend it. Today's trade union action was accordingly suspended. During the talks, we hope to present the unresolved issues regarding allowances in the health sector and receive a favourable response.
A protest organised by the Government Nursing Officers Association in line with the strike was held opposite the Peradeniya Teaching Hospital today. A charged atmosphere surrounded the Fort railway station today as scores of people rallied against the proposed Microfinance Credit Regulatory Authority bill that was presented to the Parliament on the 9th of January.
A charged atmosphere surrounded the historic Fort railway station today as microfinance loan victims and community financial services organizations rallied against the proposed Microfinance Credit Regulatory Authority bill. As emotions ran high, a heated exchange erupted between protesters and police attempting to manage the crowd.
ඕගොල්ලන්ට යන්න අවශ්‍ය නම් 5 දිනක් හෝ 6 දිනක් මේ එකතු කරගන්න මම ඒකට අවශ්‍ය පාසුකම් ටික සලසලා දෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඕගොල්ලෝ ඒ විදියට ගමන් කරොත් මට ඕගොල්ලන්ව අපරාධ නඩු විධාන සංග්‍රහය 95 වගන්ති යටතේ විසුරු හරින්න වෙනවා. මානව හිමිකම් කොමිසම නෑ ඒක මම බලා ගන්නවා. ඔයා මට ඔයා රටේ තියෙන නීතියක් ඔයාට බෑ රටේ තියෙන නීතියක් නෑ කියන්නේ. ඔයා සුප්‍රීම කෝට් වල කියන අර්ථකථනයක් කරන් එන්න. ඔයා එහෙම ගන්නෑ. ඔයා දැනගෙන කතා කරන්න. මොකද? නෑ පස්තනේ හරි පස්තනේ ලෑස්තින්න. අපි ඒව කරලා දෙනවා ඕගොල්ලන්ට. ඕගොල්ලෝ මේ කඩේ යන අය කියන්නේ වහලා මෝඩ වැඩ කරන්න එපා. එච්චරයි කියන්නේ තියෙන්නේ. මිනිස්සුන්ට අමාරු දාන්න එපා එච්චරයි. උනේ කට්ටිය ගෙන්නන්න ඔතෙන්ට.
Sri Lanka police fired tear gas and water cannons at Inter-University Students' Federation protest close to the Sri Jayawardhanapura University.
The Inter-University Students' Federation engaged in a protest against the privatization of education, the issues that have arisen in the universities and the increase in the cost of living of the people following the increase in VAT. Earlier in the day, the Malika Kanda Magistrates Court issued an order today barring 9 individuals, including the convener of the Inter-University Students' Federation, from holding protests and demonstrations on several key roads in Colombo. The court order came in response to a request filed by the Maradana Police OIC, who informed the court about plans for a student march starting near Vihara Mahadevi Park and moving towards the Colombo Fort railway station via the Lipton roundabout. Despite this order, the Inter-University Students' Federation commenced the protest near the Sri Jayawardhanapura University, and soon after that, the police took measures to disperse the group.
අම්මලා පඩියෙන් ළමයි දෙන්නලා කන්න දීලා ලැජ්ජ වෙයි දවසක ලැජ්ජ වෙයි
Sri Lanka's Agriculture Minister gave this response earlier in the day to the concerns mounting over soaring vegetable prices. This was the Agriculture Minister's solution to the crisis.
I forewarned of this price increase around 4 months ago. It has been raining non-stop. Farmlands have been destroyed. I asked everyone to cultivate, even on a pot. I have directed authorities to allocate funds to commence home gardening to address this matter.
Civil and social activists in Colombo expressed strong concerns today at a press conference warning against what they perceive as a growing threat to democratic rights in the country.
Civil and social activists in Colombo have called a joint press conference today to dissect the recently proposed draft online safety bill.
There are chances of hosting 2 elections this year, the presidential election and the parliamentary elections. We believe that this will definitely happen. At the same time, the socio-economic problems of the country have not come to an end. there is no solution to it either. These problems still remain. In such a situation, there is doubt within the public that these laws are brought in with the hope of restricting people's speech or suppressing them.
Online web jalaවට.
It is a committee appointed by the president that is making the decisions related to online platforms. They are justifying this, saying that this is to protect females and children. That is true. There is a lot of illegal activities taking place online. We should be able to control that. But what we see here is what happens beyond this. The reason for that is that the committee making the decisions is not independent. This is an appointment made by the president. Therefore, we can come to a conclusion that this can be used unnecessarily.
ස්වාධීන එකක් නෙවෙයි. මේක ඔක්කොම ජනාධිපති පත් කරන එකක්. ඉතින් අපිට හිතන්න පුළුවන් මේකත් අයුතු ලෙස පාවිච්චි වෙන්න පුළුවන් කියලා.
මේ අවස්ථාවේ රජයෙන්
We would like to ask the government, the president and the parliament, what is your objective from this? You told the IMF and other organizations financially helping the country, including the World Bank, ADB and the other governments, that the main focus at the moment is to uplift the economy of the country. Do you have to take away the freedom of speech and access to information in order to achieve this? How are these two related?
මේ රටේ ආර්ථිකය ගොඩනගන්න කියලා කියනවා. දැන් මේ ආර්ථිකය ගොඩනගන්න ජනතාවගේ භාෂණීය තොරතුරුවට ප්‍රවිෂ්ඨ වීමේ විවේචනය කිරීමේ සංවාද කිරීමේ නිදහස අඩු කරන්න ඕනේද? මොකද්ද මේ දෙකේ තියෙන සම්බන්ධය?
ජනතාවට තමන්ගේ විරෝධය පළ කරන්න.
If the freedom to express dissent is taken away from the public by the government, there are chances that this can turn into violence. The government has to think very carefully about this. If the general public is provoked due to this in the future, the government should be held accountable for it.
ආකාරයක මේට එරෙහිව සමාජයේ අරගලයක් මතුවුණොත් ජනතාව ප්‍රචණ්ඩකාරීව හැසිරෙන්න ක්‍රියා කළොත් ඒ පිළිබඳව අද මේකට අත උස්සන පාර්ලිමේන්තු මන්ත්‍රීවරු වගකිය යුතු වෙනවා.
News First with the people.
Minister of Public Security Tiran Alas visited the Mahanayaka Theros of the Malwatu and Askivi chapters of the Siam sect in conjunction with the completion of 1 month since the launch of Operation Yuktya.
The Minister of Public Security visited Mahanayaka of the Malwatu chapter of the Siam sect, Most Venerable Thibatuave Sri Sumangala Thero, obtained blessings and updated him on the progress achieved so far by Operation Yuktya.
Today marks 1 month since the launch of Operation Yuktya. I came to obtain your blessings and the blessings of the sacred tooth. This is not an easy task. It creates many enemies as well.
Later, the Minister of Public Security visited the Anunayaka of the Malwatu chapter, Venerable Dimbul Kumbure Vimaladama Thero.
There is a massive transformation taking place in Sri Lanka's defence sector. It is a blessing to the country and its citizens.
Minister of Public Security Tiran Alas also worshipped the temple of the Sacred Tooth relic and visited the Anunayaka of the Askari chapter of the Siam sect, Most Venerable Vedarue Upali Thero.
It was recently published in a newspaper that Sri Lanka is in the 91st place in terms of crime, bribery and corruption. We are not saying that the situation can be completely changed by exercising laws and penalties alone. Although the situation cannot be prevented entirely through projects like this, it can certainly be controlled. It can be minimized.
The minister later spoke to the media.
I have mentioned several times that I will not stop this operation. No one can influence me to do so either. So I have absolutely no issue. The only two people who can influence me are the President and the Prime Minister. Up to date, there has been no influence from their side. As I always say, the only people who attempt to influence and criticize this operation are those who are linked to drug deals and money generated through transactions involving drugs.
Red Sea crisis.
The simmering tensions in the Red Sea are escalating into a potentially wider geopolitical crisis, with the long-standing Israel-Hamas conflict serving as a catalyst. What began as a regional dispute is now spilling over, casting a shadow of uncertainty across Asia and beyond. The turning point came yesterday when Iran launched a missile and drone attack targeting a militant organization in Pakistan.
Fighting has ravaged Gaza since Hamas's unprecedented October 7 attacks on Israel. The current tension in the Red Sea stems from the Houthis' response to Israel's military operations in Gaza targeting Hamas. Demanding an immediate halt to the Israeli offensive, the Yemeni rebels launched over 20 drone and missile strikes on American and Israeli merchant ships navigating the Red Sea. A joint operation led by the United States and Britain retaliated against rebel targets in Yemen. In a dramatic escalation of the Yemeni conflict last week, countries led by the United States and Britain launched a series of airstrikes against Houthi rebel targets across Yemen as a direct response to recent Houthi attacks on commercial vessels in the Red Sea. The US alleges that Iran is backing the Houthis in their attacks. On Monday, Iran's Islamic Revolution Guards Corps said it had fired barrages of ballistic missiles at an Israeli espionage center of the Israeli regime's Mossad spy agency in the Iraqi Kurdistan region. The US consulate in Erbil, Iraq is also located in close proximity to the Mossad safe house. That same night, Iran also hit targets allegedly linked to ISIL in northern Syria, saying it was defending its security and countering terrorism. Iran launched attacks in Pakistan targeting what it described as bases for the militant group Jaish al-Adl, potentially further raising tensions in the Middle East already roiled by Israel's war on Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Pakistan said the strikes killed 2 children and wounded 3 others in an assault it described as an unprovoked violation of its airspace. Pakistan also said the violation of Pakistan's sovereignty is completely unacceptable and can have serious consequences. Pakistan recalled its ambassador from neighboring Iran, the Pakistani Foreign Ministry said amid unprecedented tension between the two nations. Notably, Iran had used ballistic missiles that can travel over 1,000 kilometers to carry out these attacks, and were the first such attacks in many years. China has asked Pakistan and Iran to show restraint and avoid actions that could escalate tensions. A Greek-owned Maltese-flagged cargo ship was reportedly hit by a rocket as it sailed close to the coast of Yemen, amid a sharp uptick in attempted strikes on civilian vessels in the Red Sea by Houthi rebels. No injuries have been reported among the crew members. Israel's army said it had conducted aerial and artillery strikes on Hezbollah targets within a short amount of time in the Sluki Valley area. They said the strikes were the most intense on one single area since Iran-backed Hezbollah and Israel began exchanging near-daily cross-border fire in the wake of the Israel-Hamas war that began on October 7th. The Iran-backed Lebanese group Hezbollah said US actions in the Red Sea would harm the security of all shipping as the area had now become a conflict zone, saying the Houthis of Yemen would keep up attacks despite US and British airstrikes. Hezbollah leader Syed Hassan Nasrallah, whose group is a leading part of an Iran-aligned regional alliance which includes the Houthis, said Houthi targeting of ships belonging to Israel or heading to its ports would continue. Adding to the escalating tensions, a series of computer-generated videos surfaced on social media platforms yesterday, showcasing support for the Houthi fighters. The footage depicted American flag-bearing boxers bobbing in the Red Sea alongside simulated attacks on warships. This comes on the heels of a warning issued last week by a Houthi leader in Yemen, threatening attacks on the US and British ships in the region.
A statement issued by the Yemeni armed forces. He who starts an aggression against you should be fought against. The American-British enemy, in the context of their support to the Israel's criminal acts in Gaza, launched a belligerence against the Republic of Yemen with 73 airstrikes. The British-American enemy is held totally liable for their criminal belligerence against our Yemeni people. This belligerence cannot go unpunished. This cannot go without a response. The Yemeni armed forces will not hesitate to target the origin of any threats, together with all enemy targets in the land or on the sea, to defend Yemen's sovereignty and independence. This belligerent aggression cannot dent the Yemeni armed forces from supporting the Palestinian people. The Yemeni armed forces reiterate they will continue to prevent Israeli vessels or those headed to the occupied Palestinian seaport from navigating in the Arab or the Red Sea. And God is our rock and He is a disposer of all affairs. Long live Yemen, free and independent.
The US military launched its third strike on Tuesday against Houthi militants in Yemen, destroying 4 anti-ship ballistic missiles prepared to launch at ships in the Red Sea. The simmering conflict in the Middle East has escalated dramatically, spilling over from Israel and Palestine into Lebanon, Yemen, Iran and now Pakistan, with the volatile Red Sea at its epicenter. This international crisis directly impacts global shipping, jeopardizing the crucial trade route connecting the Mediterranean with Asia through the Suez Canal. Leading shipping companies have already begun rerouting around South Africa, adding over 40% to shipping costs. Newsfirst issued a timely warning weeks ago about the potential risks of Sri Lanka getting embroiled in this conflict. And now Sri Lanka finds itself taking a serious step as the president announced the deployment of a navy ship to the Red Sea. While the exact date remains unknown, there has been no indication of a change in the president's decision. Should Sri Lanka intervene in this global power play, especially with the conflict reaching Pakistan in the South Asian region and drawing closer to our waters?
Red Sea Crisis.
Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe is set to attend the upcoming Non-Aligned Movement Summit in Kampala, Uganda, while simultaneously considering sending a Sri Lankan Navy ship to assist in the operations in the Red Sea. The Non-Aligned Movement is a group of states which are not formally aligned with or against any major power bloc. The President is expected to fly to Uganda from Switzerland.
ஜனாதிபதி ரணில் விக்ரமசிங்கே அவர்கள் இன்றைக்கு அணிசேரா மாநாட்டுக்கு
We got to know that the president had left the country to attend the non-aligned summit. Why is Sri Lanka intervening in the Middle Eastern crisis while the president is claiming that the country's policy is non-aligned? He has taken a decision to deploy the Sri Lanka Navy to the Red Sea, where there is an already ongoing conflict. This is not informed to Parliament either. We may have to face dire consequences when we intervene in these situations while the country is in such a state. If we are following the non-aligned policy, we should continue to do so. The country may fall into a serious crisis because of the president's decision.
ஜனாதிபதியுடைய இந்த தீர்மானம் மிக மோசமாக நாட்டை பாதிக்க போகிற ஒரு தீர்மானம்.
Newsfirst, main sponsor.
Reach beyond boundaries with Edlocate. Explore education across 6 destinations under one roof.
The 104th anniversary of the Iranamadu tank and the celebration of the harvest gained using the resources of the tank was celebrated under the auspices of Shakti TV today.
Pongal was celebrated today in 104 pots to mark the completion of 104 years since the opening of the Iranamadu reservoir for public use. Officials of Shakti TV, Sirasa TV, additional governor of the Kilnochi district, officials of the Department of Agriculture and many members of the general public were present at the event. In keeping with tradition, a harvest was brought to the Kanakampikai Kovil, followed by religious observances. Religious observances were also held at the bund of the Iranamadu reservoir. Traditional sports and artistic aspects of the villagers further embellished the event.
And with that, we wrap up Primetime News for tonight.
Thank you for watching. Take care and good night.